Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity, Stop the New World Order, welcome to Hapanwo TV. Yes, it's me again for the third time on the week where I said I'd be making no videos. Yeah, I said I did my comments reply video, I think it was on Monday, I think I did that, and then I said, right, no more from me for an entire week, because then I'm going to be away, and I am going away tomorrow. I've got this t-shirt on here, see, some UFOs are real, and my hair, UFO Truth magazine, which might give you a clue of what I'm going to do this weekend. I can't tell you, but it might give you a little clue. Yeah, so this is, again, I've just... For some reason, on this video, this week when I was expecting to do no uploads, I've been compelled to put photos onto celluloid twice. This time, it's to do with UFOs disclosure again, and maybe that is a sign of how fast things are moving within this field. To begin with, I wanted to... Excuse me. I began this subject, actually, on the last video about Boris and Trump, and I began it because I thought, well, it's connected. However... I wanted perhaps to expand on it a little bit more and go into some of the issues other people have raised, especially UFO Jesus, because UFO Jesus has come up with something very, very interesting, and it's to do with the skeptics, because this is really basically a big skeptic thing. But first of all, I want to just recap by playing you a little clip of the last video I did in which I introduced this subject. I want to replay this clip because it's better putting this video as part of its context. Although I am glad I don't regret putting it in the previous video, because what's happening in the world of UFOs is connected to everything to do with Biden, with Biden, the fake, and with the real President Trump, and with Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister. They're all meeting at G7 down in Corbis Bay, Cornwall at the moment. You know. Just as I speak now, they're all just arriving at the posh hotel there, yeah. Okay, guys, so first of all, I'll just play you the little clip with Senator Heinrich, okay, which I played last time. Wear your tinfoil hat with pride, my friends. Hang another ribbon on your corkboard without apology. I'm enjoying this procession of events. I mean, just on the subject of UFOs, there was this guy, UFO Jesus was talking about him. Where is he? I think I might have just, yes, it was, yeah, Martin Heinrich. But if you... Yeah, this is very interesting. This is on, Martin Heinrich. He was a senator, and in the US, he was a US senator, and he says something very interesting.
The new 888
I'll get rid of the ads here. UFO Jesus made a video about this, explaining how this guy was basically tackled on the street. Here we go.
What do you think about all this UFO
This is basically the reporters following him down the street in Washington, D.C.
going on right now?
I think we need to get to the bottom of it. It's pretty intriguing. I don't know what it is, but anytime you have legitimate pilots describing something that doesn't seem to conform to the laws of physics that govern aviation and is in U.S. airspace, I think it's something we need to get to the bottom of.
Well, that's basically what Jen Psaki said, but... So he's just walking along the street. He's not said anything particularly radical now, but just...
Right, but you know, like they always say the conspiracies at Roswell, there's a lot of alien bodies in there or anything. Can you tell me the truth? You're on the Intel committee. Is there anything in there?
All I can say is I've never seen the bodies in Roswell.
Bigger thing...
Oh, that's correct. That's convenient. Yeah, that's Bill Clinton said that as well, but wait.
To worry about if it's a foreign government or if it's aliens.
That's a good question. Which is it a foreign government or is it aliens? Which is the most important thing you've got to say? Now, my response would be, it's going to be more difficult. This I think would be an honest response if I was a US senator or as a military strategist. I'd say it's the proper what the mainstream would say is, oh well, if it's aliens we can just have a laugh. If we think it's aliens we can just have a laugh about it because tinfoil hats, swamp gas, weather balloons, ha 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 ha. Yeah, we don't want it to be Chinese or Russian because then we've got problems. You know, this is a foreign threat. They're a direct and present, clear and present danger to the United States. Things like that. What I would say, as in that position, was it's better off if it is a foreign enemy. If it's a foreign nation on Earth, we know how to deal with them. If these are artificial objects created by a non-human intelligence that's interacting with planet Earth and the human race, then essentially all our intelligence efforts to control the situation will have to begin from scratch. Therefore, it's better the devil you know, so to speak. But what does he say?
Oh, option B, much bigger thing.
You think the aliens would be worse?
So he agrees with me on that.
I cannot imagine.
He's umming and ahhing a lot. He's awkward.
If we have, if there is a foreign government that had these kinds of capabilities, I think we would see.
That's a good point. This is interesting. He's trying to say if he's eliminating option A, foreign governments and state actors. If there was a foreign government, we would know.
Other indications of advanced technology.
Other indication of advanced technology, we would know. I mean, it's like I said in the previous video. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze again. Like I said in the previous video, this kind of technological disparity you don't find when you're interacting with the United States and Russia and China between them, right? You find it if you go into the middle of the Amazon jungle or jungles of New Guinea, and you find a Stone Age tribe. There are still a few left that have not had contact with the outside world. Show them your mobile phone, see what they think. They'll see a box, they'll see lights on it, it makes noises, they won't know what it is. They'll dismiss it as some kind of magic. As Arthur C. Clarke said, technology is indistinguishable from magic if it's at a certain level. Now, that essentially is the position we seem to be in with these objects. We don't really understand exactly what makes them tick, what they're made of, and how they work. So it's very interesting what Heinrich says here.
I can't imagine that what has been described or shown in some of the videos belongs to any government that I'm aware of. I'm not.
So there he is. He's actually saying essentially, he's not saying it's aliens. He's saying it's not. He says, is it aliens or is it Russian and Chinese? And he's saying, it's not Russian and Chinese.
Not really a betting man, but the way these things operate, they certainly, you wouldn't want a human being or any living creature in something that moves that fast and changes direction that quickly. So, like I said, I have no idea what it is, but I think we should figure it out.
Well done, Senator Heinrich, for that. Well done. That's one of the best statements we've heard so far. I think it's second only to Trump and his comments on Roswell. It's like they're saying, so this isn't a UFO disclosure video, but these things are connected, so I'm quite right probably to put it in here, because this is connected to the return of Trump. What he's saying is, he's actually saying here, what a lot of them are kind of, he's more blatantly than what a lot of them have. People are saying, well, look, are these, do you think these are extraterrestrials or not? Do you think it's Russians and Chinese doing it, or some person with high technology? And they're saying, it's not Russian and Chinese or a person with high technology. It's like they're sort of like skirting around the edges of this elephant in the room. That's another phrase from UFO Jesus. I don't think any of them want to be the first person in the world to say, all right, we think it is something non-human. It's doing this. See, even Senator Heinrich there was very, very careful to avoid being in that position. He doesn't want to be the first person just to say it's not aliens. So what he's saying is that he says it is aliens. He says he doesn't want to be the first person to say, all right, we admit it's aliens. He doesn't want to do that. So what he's doing was he's blockading. He's going around the issue the long way, saying it's not Russian, it's not Chinese. You can almost see him winking. But in a sense, they're saying it's aliens without saying it's aliens. It's like that. It's like the paradox which I made into a meme for the title slide in my last UFO Disclosure video. Georgia Sokolos and David Duchovny going like that. It's not aliens, but it might be aliens. So, interesting times we're living in when Senator Heinrich and other senior officials in the US government are talking UFOs. Now, I just want to read you a passage from my book here, Roswell Rising, a novel of disclosure, available at all good bookshops now, priced £10. If you go into a bookshop and it's not there, It's not a good bookshop. Never shop there again. I'm just going to read you a passage from this particular book. Now, to give you a bit of background, my main character, he comes across a UFO skeptic called Hector Robzark. And you can wonder where I got that name from. It's an interesting story behind that, which I won't tell now. But Hector Robzark is a UFO skeptic who runs a skeptic organization. And the day after disclosure, he kills himself. Now, what happens then is that my main character, Klein, goes into the Oval Office to talk to the president. And the president says this. I'm sorry to hear about Hector Robzark. He visited me here only last year. I used to enjoy his TV show. I even believe some of the things he said in it. Clay nodded, unsure of what to say in reply. Suicide. Oh dear, the president grumbled to himself. There's been a lot of it about, Mr. Quilly. More in your part of the country than mine. It can't have been an easy drive up here. It wasn't, Mr. President. Truman turned to face him. I'm afraid to tell you there's been some more bad news about Dr. Robzark. He wasn't the only one. In fact, at about the same time, all 58 members of his organization. They locked themselves inside their clubhouse down at Lusby on the Bay, and they all downed a big glass of Kool-Aid laced with rat poison. It doesn't look like an organized suicide pact. They just seem to gather together and do the deed spontaneously, like it was some sort of subconscious thing. Why, Mr. Quilly? So there you are. That's what the skeptics do in my particular book when UFO disclosure happens. Now, that's a bit of an exaggeration. I don't expect all the skeptics in the world, and Steve Mumbling and all the other skeptics, to go out and suddenly down rat poison because of what's happened here. But the skeptic movement and skeptic people are going to go through an enormous challenge, a terrible challenge. The entire demolition of their entire worldview. Steve Mumbling says here, he's got a thing, ISA President Gary Heseltine in action. ISA President Roberto Pinotti in action. That's ICER. That sounds very interesting, I think. But yeah, Steve's got a bit of a bee in his bonnet about the ICER. Anyway, what's this? Did I take a photo of a UFO? I'll have to check out his channel later. But as you know, if you've been watching regularly, I think I mentioned this previously, I will be debating Steve Mumbling. I have actually decided to do a debate with him. So that's coming up. Look forward to that. Anyway, I got sent this. This is from the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. Yes, I'm on their newsletter. You know, they say, friends close, enemies closer. Oh, I'm just curious. I mean, I suppose it's like why I have hate watches on YouTube. I just want to see what the other side are thinking. Anyway, this is from Robin Blummer of the Richard Dawkins Foundation for Reason and Science. Excuse me. June the 9th, 2021 newsletter. There's an awful lot of wishful thinking going on. There always is, of course, even in the face of contradictory facts. Human beings tend to view the world through a lens that puts things in more favourable, hopeful light. A prime example. Chances are you've just heard that the Pentagon is expected to produce a report detailing what it knows about some of the unidentified aerial phenomena recorded and reported by US military pilots and personnel. Let's be clear. There is no reason to suspect that there will be any earth-shaking disclosure about aliens or extraterrestrial contact, and indeed early reporting bears that out. But it's not stopping UFO enthusiasts from claiming a kind of vindication, as though the military's concession that it can't identify literally every anomaly is evidence that they think it might be aliens. Right, well, that's completely untrue, as you know. Yeah, it's, where are we now? Which kind of wishful thinking clouds the larger issues that the report will likely focus on. Whether these unidentified phenomena represent technological leaps by the adversaries that could pose threats to national security. Well, as you just heard from Senator Heinrich, that's not very likely. And as I explained, we're talking about a technological leap that's beyond simply, some foreign power gets a rocket up into space first, a couple of months ahead of America, like in the space race. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the equivalent of going into the Amazon jungle or the jungles of New Guinea and meeting the Stone Age tribes who still live there and showing them your modern technology. It's that kind of, this is the kind of technological leaps. This is what we're talking about in terms of technological disparity. We're not talking about China or Russia getting slightly ahead of the US. And indeed, Senator Heinrich kind of made that point, didn't he? This week, we'll look how actual experts are digesting the news and how our own Committee for Skeptical Inquiry has stepped up to the plate to offer some helpful tips to any journalists looking to make sure that their UFO reporting is down to earth. Yes. Well, what I've got here, he goes on to say there's a big long paragraph here which I won't read, but it mentions Paul Kurtz. Well, he's a bit of a dodgy fella, you might want to know. And where's the thing about UFOs? Here we go. A Skeptic's Guide to Reporting UFOs. Okay, whoops. I'll just reopen that tab. I just got sent this. This is from the Seaside Committee for Skeptical Inquiry. We at the Committee for Skeptical Inquiry, a group of scientists and science communicators long involved in advancing sound science, supporting good science journalism, and helping the public tell the difference between science and pseudoscience. We've been concerned about some recent over-enthusiastic and uncritical coverage of UFO claims. The coverage of UFO claims, I think, has been neither. It's been neither over-enthusiastic nor uncritical. It's been exactly the opposite. The media have been extremely cautious about this. Probably more, as I said, they're almost skirting around the obvious issue within it. And over-enthusiastic? No. Maybe people like myself and UFO Jesus and others are enthusiastic, but no, come on. It's not over-enthusiastic at all. Excuse me. The history of UFO reports and their coverage teaches us that these topics should be treated with great care. Pseudoscientific ideas about UFOs have reportedly tripped up journalists over the decades. A few times, but this is a bit different this time. Covering claims of sightings of UFOs, sometimes called unidentified aerial phenomena or UAPs, has always posed challenges. These stories may excite readers, but do they reflect any evidence that the only explanation of the incidents is an extraterrestrial highly advanced space or aerial device? The answer to that is that there's no proof. However, it's a process, it's really a diagnosis of elimination. You say, is there any positive evidence for this being a highly advanced space or aerial device? What's the evidence that it's not? Extraordinary until proven otherwise, as the title of the video about this subject makes. In fact, everyone's desperate. Everyone, as I said about Senator Heinrich, everybody, it seems, is absolutely desperate not to be the worst person to mention the A word, aliens. But it's like they're skirting round it. It's like an elephant in the room, as UFO Jesus says. They know it's there. They're trying to. Everyone knows it's there. They're all referring to it. No one wants actually just simply to say it's there. You mentioned you certainly noticed that with Heinrich. In fact, there was an element to that with Obama and what he says as well. Anyway, here we go. Fortunately, by the way, this is my skeptic voice. I quite like it actually. Hope you do too. Several excellent explanatory articles and broadcast segments have appeared in the past few weeks that help explain, with good technical detail, the UFO quote-unquote videos that have been the topic of so much coverage. The link we provide here and at the bottom shows how to access them. It's also a guide to other reliable sources. Well, here we go. Responding to claims about UFOs, it's actually just a list of web resources here, but there's a whole load of them, far too much. There's J. Covalito. How Washington got hooked on flying saucers. That's from New Republic. Oh, Mick West. Mick West is loads of Mick West, lots of Mick West YouTube videos here, of course, which I've already addressed. Robert Schaefer. Now he's a veteran. He's an absolutely veteran skeptic. In fact, he was at the 1983 Psychop conference, where Psychop is the old name for the CSI, the people who produced this. Where Philip Glass was a big hit. He's got his website called debunker.com and badufos.blogspot.com. James McGaha, the UFO Identification Progress. Yeah, James McGaha and Joe Nickel. Oh, Joe Nickel, less said about him the better. But James McGaha is interesting because he actually used to be a military pilot, yet he stood on stage claiming that the Phoenix Lights were just flares. And he was probably the only, as far as I know, he was the only person in that field, in that profession, who said that. Franknoy, not heard about them. A lot less UFOs, a lot less than meets the eyes. Ian Ridpath, who else? IanRidpath.com, British Science, right, here we are, investigates UFO reports. James Oberg, yes, press silence for James Oberg. Yeah, he's actually co-authored. He co-authored a book with. Who was it? Did he co-author a book with what's his name? Pavlov Stonehill, otherwise known as Paul Stonehill? No, I think it was Philip Mandel, not him, because I don't think that he would ever write anything with Paul Stonehill. Astron Anna, never heard of him or her. Tim Printy, no. Alien Autopsy Hoax. Oh my God, Colin Wolford is triggered at this moment. It's actually Skeptical Inquirer. Oh right, I'm sure Colin's read that. Jay Glight, don't know him. James McGaha again. That's it. So that's your list. There's far too much to read here, but that's your basic list of which the CSI has gathered together, including their own fellow Robert Schaefer, who, like I said, was a big star of the 1983 conference. Some of these skeptics have been in this business for a long time. You know, they're very, very stubborn. At least Steve Mumbling, you know, he had a phase when he was a woo-woo. He knew Peter Paget. Okay then. Some of the media have asked for our help, so in addition we offer these, we hope, constructive suggestions. Number 1. Be aware of the notorious history of these enthusiasms. I didn't know enthusiasm could have a plural. UFO claims arise, generate media and public interest, often get reported in highly credulous ways, and produce a flood of copycat stories. Scientists and science-minded investigators then examine and eventually explain the claims, often to the embarrassment of the early enthusiasts. Usually the prosaic explanations get little coverage compared with the early hype. This dynamic distorts the public's and the media's perceptions. Soon the debunked claims are replaced by new claims and the cycle starts anew. That's actually a misrepresentation of the situation. What actually happens, there may be some examples where that actually is true. I could probably think of some actually, not off the top of my head, but I could certainly think of a few. But what generally happens, the UFO claims arise, they generate media and public interest, get reported in, I think, quite sensible ways, and there are inevitably some copycat stories, but not always. Sometimes there's people who say they had the same thing, like all the alien abductees who came out when Betty and Barney Hill did. Then the skeptics, who are very often they're often quite closed-minded people, as you know if you watch my skeptic video. I'll put a link in the description box, and also, of course. So I've got to make notes of these things. Oh bloody hell! Hang on, forget it. I'll remember. Then what happens is you get like the people who I think we should be suspicious of their motives and who actually are part of the truth embargo. They then put out stories like about weather balloons and lighthouses and things like that. The embarrassment is actually more like just. Well, some people fall for it, others don't. The prosaic explanations, in other words, the cover-up explanations, the weather balloons, the swamp gas, things like that, they actually get an awful lot of coverage. They're actually rather hyped. I think that's the hype is on their side. And that's what happens. So I think what you just read there, it may apply to some cases, but it certainly doesn't apply to all of them. The Roswell weather balloon story is a perfect example. You know, they've even admitted, the government have even admitted now, that the weather balloon story exactly was that. It was a cover-up. It was designed to undo the damage done by the leak, which was the flying disc captured story. Later on, they admitted it was a cover-up. They said, "Oh no, it was only covering up a spy balloon called Project Mogul." But they just added another cover story on top of that one. Number 2. Sources often conflate sightings of something in the sky with extraterrestrials. A UFO or UAP doesn't necessarily mean aliens. Most UFOs are turned into IFOs, identified flying objects, and turn out to be terrestrial craft, space junk, or celestial objects. Assuming that aerial phenomena must be alien ships is an illogical jump. Okay, it's true that most UFOs do get identified, but it's not an illogical jump at all. It is to assume that aerial phenomena are alien ships. However, as I said, if you're using this conclusion of elimination, you have to consider that it's a possibility that we're dealing with artifacts of an extraterrestrial civilization. That's what these things are. Now, if you eliminate other possibilities of what they could be, that is Chinese or Russian or anti-gravity aircraft or drones or something like that. I've already explained why it can't be the submarine drone that I talked about before. You have to table the possibility that these are extraterrestrial artifacts. There's absolutely nothing illogical about that at all. Yeah, sure, if you see just a light in the sky and think aliens, that's illogical. That's the illogical jump. But it's a straw man to try and apply that to the current new ufology, the UAP ufology. Number 3. Many confuse the fact that astronomers believe, on a statistical basis, that life, even intelligent life, may exist elsewhere in the universe with the idea that such life has already been discovered by being glimpsed in our skies. It hasn't. All right, yeah. I should have mentioned, actually, I think, let's have a look. Let's go back to that reading list for a moment. I forgot to mention one of the authors here, who is Seth Shostak. Aliens, they are not here. A thoughtful 2020 article from Skeptical Inquirer. Seth Shostak is a SETI enthusiast. And yeah, I'm using the word enthusiast now. So SETI enthusiasms tend to stay that. This is basically the SETI point. Now, I've done an entire talk on SETI. An entire talk about how it's called SETI and UFOs. If you haven't seen it, it's on this channel. There's several different versions of it. There's another really good one on Tajinder Gill's channel as well. I do recommend. But they're pointing these telescopes at the sky, trying to pick up signals from planets many light years away. They may succeed eventually, but the point of SETI is basically, look, this is what we're doing. We're looking so carefully. We believe there's aliens, but they're all out there, right? But forget that thing flying above the observatory. That's nothing. That's their point. Carl Sagan was involved in this. And it's actually, as Steve Bassett says, it's just a distraction. Silly effort to investigate, as the late, great Stanton Friedman says. Number 4. There are always going to be some unresolved sightings, often where very little is known or recorded. Yes, that's not... In this case, there's a huge amount that's been known or recorded. These few sightings are usually unresolved due to a lack of reliable information about their circumstances, not because they are inherently mysterious or unexplainable. That applies to some cases, but as I just said, that doesn't apply to this case at all. You're dealing with an enormous amount of documentary evidence, video evidence, witness testimony, and now we're getting telemetry as well. Some of that probably will never be declassified simply because, just for practical reasons, because you can't give away information about the capabilities of the ships. But telemetry does exist to back up what has been reported by Schaefer, by Dietrich, by all the others, Cahill and all the others. Number 5. No, did I do number 4? Yeah, I did. Number 5. There are always going to be officials among the sprawling defence agencies and their countless contractors who have to take reports of UFOs or UAP seriously. Yeah, that's what Nick Pope, praise be upon him, used to do. What's the point here? Hang on. It is their job to ensure our skies are not being infiltrated by aircraft or drones from other countries. That doesn't mean they accept that such reports involve spaceships from other worlds. Not always, no. However, a sensible defence policy, and indeed Heinrich talked about this, a sensible defence policy would leave that open as a possibility, just in case the United States is invaded by non-human intelligence using artefacts of their own creation. It would be a foolish military strategist who would completely eliminate that possibility just to have them actually land. Number 6. In contrast, There are always going to be a few officials among the many defense agencies, or a few politicians who, for their own personal reasons, sometimes they have an anti-science or pseudo-scientific mystical view of the world, are believers in or enthusiasts about UFOs or aliens. While they may take it upon themselves to evangelize on the subject and seek coverage, their personal beliefs do not reflect any scientific or official consensus. Why don't you just say the names, you cowards? Lou Elizondo. That's what you're saying, aren't you? You're saying Lou Elizondo, Christopher Mellon. Oh, you're saying all these people. Right, well, the point of the matter is, I think this is a slur, actually. This is insulting. It really is. The people you're referring to, whatever their actual beliefs are, very often they don't have those beliefs until they have these experiences. I don't know specifically whether David Fravor or Lou Elizondo or any of these other people actually believed in UFOs before this happened. But just listen to what they're saying. Listen to the things they actually say about this phenomenon they encounter. This, number 6 here, is an insult. It's a complete misrepresentation of the personnel involved. I mean, I recommend, what's the name of the guy? Leto. Hang on, what's his name? Leto. He's a very interesting chap, actually. Yeah, Chris Leto on YouTube, right? His channel's really good because he takes on Mick West. This is... here we go. He's got videos here. The gimbal video is not debunked. Come up with, and there's one called the gimbal. It's just one day. Gimbal video is not debunked. Flare go fast videos are not debunked. You know, this guy takes apart everything Mick West says. He's a former U.S. Navy pilot as well. He's basically done the same job as David Fravor and Dietrich and all the others. And unlike them, he is those guys haven't tackled Mick West directly. This guy is. And he's disproved all the rubbish that he talks, Mick West, about, oh yes, it's a seagull, it's a flock of seagulls, it's a this, that, and the other, it's a reflection on his visor, Mick West, of course, is on this reading list here. There's 2 references on this reading list. There's a Yahoo.com and a YouTube reference here, and he's on CNN as well. Mick West has been on CNN. These are produced completely uncritically by the CSI on their little catalogue here, their footnotes. Number 7. When possible, it's best to seek out independent, knowledgeable scientific and technical sources, including astronomers, skeptics, and psychologists, for their perspective. One of the roles of CSI is to provide such sources for journalists. All right. Okay, you see, the problem is, this list of people you say, independent, knowledgeable, scientific, technical sources, astronomers, skeptics, skeptics, psychologists. If I went and had a look right now, I could find you a dozen people who fit that description, who will challenge CSI's views of UFOs. I can absolutely guarantee it. This is just appeal to authority. It's a fallacy. There we go. Number 8. Anecdotal statements such as, it flew away at speeds unimaginable, or turned in a way impossible for aircraft today, are not reliable. Without knowing the distance of the supposed object, if it is an object, and whether the camera itself was moving, no meaningful statements can be made about velocity. Right, well, that's not true. Again, check out Chris Leto and his challenge to Mick West. Check out UFO Jesus and what he said. These things are reliable under certain circumstances. There are situations, for example, when you don't know the range of an object. For example, and this could be if you're on the ground and you've got like a camera and you're just photographing, you may not be able to know the range of the object. It may be close by. It may appear to move faster than it is. But on the other hand, if you have more than one camera, for example, maybe a military gun camera on an aircraft, backed up by telemetry from a ship, that's a different matter. I think these statements are reliable. They're not just anecdotal. Anecdotal. Why do they use that? This is not anecdotal, no matter what you say. They misuse the word anecdotal here. Oh dear, I'm going to have to detoxify from this lately. All right, here we go. Last one, number 9.
The US Navy UFO videos reported in this latest round of news reports, some dating back to 2004, may sound impressive, but highly advanced imaging equipment has its own built-in susceptibility to errors and human misinterpretations of their output. Plausible terrestrial explanations have been advanced for all Navy videos that have caused so much fuss. These may not be full final explanations, but so far none of the videos require resorting to unknown advanced aircraft or spacecraft, let alone ETs. See the work of Mick West, for example. Ah, yeah, uncritically posted Mick West, who has been debunked by several people now. It says here that equipment has... Basically, this is just simply... This number 9 is simply, I think... it's just simply promoting Mick West's ideas, which I myself have tackled, many other people have tackled. Charles Scott, who comments on here, has tackled as well. And finally, the conclusion. These stories are filled with many pitfalls and require greater than normal care. The public deserves the best scientifically informed information and judgments about a topic that too often is left mainly to those who care little about scientific facts. Absolute male cow excrement, absolute rubbish. That's absurd. That's totally absurd, and that I think is how they see themselves. That is this is the skeptics' lack of introspective power, as I say in my skeptic talk, and I will remember to put a link to that underneath. I will. I'll make a note now, actually. And guess what else has happened on the subject of skeptics? Oh, there's been a very weird thing has happened since I made my last video. There's Professor Brian Cox. Yes, that smiling simian of the small screen has he's making a new movie. He's making a new film. It's called what's it called now? I watched it the other day. Where is it? Hang on. Yeah, we go. Brian Cox's Adventures in Space and Time, and there's one called Aliens. Are We Alone? And I went and watched it. Yes, I watched it all, and I'm 1 hour long. I finished it, and I thought, my God, that's me an entire hour older. Yes, there's nothing in it that hasn't been done much better than David Attenborough. It's basically some facts it's things that have already been said before, much better, with shining white teeth and silky black hair and effeminate-looking skin. And basically in a high-pitched little wimpy little voice going, "Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it? Yes. Only knobbers don't believe in knobbers don't believe in UFOs." So, it actually, funny enough, he doesn't actually mention UFOs at all. However, what's weird is Cox is in it. Now, Cox is in it, but then what's weird is then there's a couple of there's this article that came out in the Daily Mirror. And it interviews Cox, and I think it may be just sensationalist headlines, but it says here, Brian Cox says UFOs are real as they share their work. Pilots say UFOs are real, and Professor Brian Cox agrees. Well, he doesn't actually, but it's weird. He said he made a few comments about aliens and things like this in this ridiculous, stupid. He doesn't actually mention UFOs at all in this actual documentary. He does mention SETI. He mentions Jerry Eman and the WOW signal. He doesn't mention UFOs. But I think it's very odd that because even though his position hasn't changed really, the very fact that he allows himself to be associated with such an article, what's it say? It indicates something very weird going on. It's out of character for him. You know, it's almost like, is it possible that he has a bit more foresight than the other skeptics regarding the UAPs? He can see the writing on the wall, and he wants to maneuver himself up the starting grid a little bit before the penny drops again. Because, as Arthur C. Clarke predicted, you know, whenever this happens, everyone, no matter who they are, will start yelling, "I told you it was true all along, didn't I? I told you it was true." And of course they didn't know, you see. And Cox wants to be out the firing line when we start hitting back at them and saying, "No, you didn't say, you didn't. You didn't say it was true all along. You laughed at the people who said it was true." So, this is a stunning development to have Cox doing that. It really, really is. On the other hand, there remains the possibility that he's simply playing his role in the disinformation for the last card, as Carol Rosin calls it. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. We've got to be on our guard for things like that. But at the same time, if we overreact to the point of total paranoia, we miss out on the opportunity. Definitely. All right, so that's enough for Cox. I fed up with him. All right, so what else the Skeptics been saying? Well, this is really weird, right? UFO Jesus put this in his latest video. Sam Harris is he's one of the four horsemen. He's this big time kind of atheo-skeptic. He actually came up in a previous video. He was mentioned. Someone put a comment on about him, and I answered. Now he's in this thing called he's in this particular he's in this conversation with Ricky Gervais in one of these radio shows, and he says something extraordinary. I'm just going to play you this little clip here.
It's as simple as that.
We may be faced with another problem on this front that will be interesting for people like ourselves to navigate. So this is the other shoe.
You're not kidding, Sam. People like yourselves to navigate. You're going to find this more difficult to navigate than the Suez Canal with a ship stuck in it.
Hasn't quite dropped here, but there was recently an article in the Washington Post. This may have been covered many other places, but I saw it there, that the Office of Naval Intelligence and the Pentagon are scheduled to brief Congress about the wealth of data that the government has.
They already have. They're just waiting to publish their report now
On UFOs.
All right.
Right, and stuff leaked or was leaked purposely.
Did he really say that? Let's hear him say it again.
Intelligence and the Pentagon are scheduled to brief Congress about the wealth of data that the government has on UFOs.
All right.
That was the real Sam Harris. That wasn't auto-tuned or anything like that. That's not a deep fake. That's the real Sam Harris talking there, I promise you. Let's see what Ricky has to say to that.
Right, and stuff leaked or was leaked purposely during this last year and got
Last 4 years, actually.
surprisingly little attention, but the rumors that I've heard, and again, this is still just in the mode of rumors, but perhaps soon to be confirmed, is that our intelligence services and the Pentagon are going to tell Congress that this is real, right? This is a real phenomenon, right? It's not that UFOs have been explained to the satisfaction of the government. On the contrary,
They'd have to change their name.
they have
He really said that. Sam Harris just said that.
seen that there's technology that really can't be of human origin, right? That they don't think this is the Chinese or the North Koreans or some other part of human society producing technology that is strange, and they can't write it off as anomalies of perception. I mean, there's just too much radar data, there's too much satellite imagery at this point, and the stuff they're sitting on that's top secret is much better than anything that's been leaked out, right? So this is still something that's just...
I'm cynical.
This is beyond belief. I'm just scrolling through the comments here. I couldn't even begin to... God knows what the skeptic forums are saying about this. Sam Harris, he's not just any old skeptic. He's just any old skepper who's just turned up at the odd Skeptics in the pub. This is one of the rock stars. This is one of the four horsemen. This guy shared a stage with Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens and Daniel Dennett. This is one of the big names in the skeptic movement. And he actually said that. By the way, UFO Jesus played this as well. I'm asserting fair use for this. I don't think it's a problem. I'm just going to play that again.
Cynical.
Many other places, but I saw it
There we go.
there.
Hang on, just
It's
out of the
real,
beer.
right? This is a real phenomenon, right? It's not that UFOs have been explained to the satisfaction of the government. On the contrary,
They'd have to change their name.
they have seen that there's technology that really can't be of human origin, right? That they don't think this is the Chinese or the North Koreans or some other part of human society producing technology that is strange, and they can't write it off as anomalies of perception. I mean, there's just too much radar data. There's too much satellite imagery at this point. And the stuff they're sitting on that's top secret is much better than anything that's been leaked out, right? So this is, again, this is still something that's just...
I'm cynical when someone says, this cannot be of human origin. That sounds to me like a 50s movie.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know?
Many of the
Ricky's a bit tougher. You see, Ricky, I think, is going to dig his heels in a bit more. He's going to hang on.
details I've heard also sound very goofy, but this is probably premature to even talk about this. But, I have someone reached out to me and has assured me that, I'm going to be on a Zoom call with, former heads of, the CIA and Office of Naval Research and people, whose bona fides are very easy to track. And they're concerned about the messaging around all of this to the public and dampening.
Oh, that's enough of that. But that is unbelievable, isn't it? That is Sam Harris. We are watching history being made. We're watching the fall off the skeptic wagon of one of the big names. I mean, I thought, as I said in my skeptic talk, I thought Michael Shermer would be the first to go. And there's actually indications Shermer is actually getting chummy with Graham Hancock. They used to did some debates on Joe Rogan. They've now sort of become friends. And, Hancock is now trying to persuade him to take ayahuasca. But Sam Harris he's bitten the bullet. I've always found him by far the most sort of open-minded and ecumenical of the skeptics. So maybe I shouldn't be as surprised as I am, but that's quite something that Sam Harris has said that. So thanks UFO Jesus for letting me know about that, because I probably wouldn't have found out. I don't know when I would have found out, probably eventually, but yeah, that's quite something. Is this article now from unexplainedmysteries.com? Now even NASA has started to investigate UFOs. But when I saw this, I thought, well, here we go. And it says here, the U.S. Space Agency has tasked what's the NASA voice? I'm not going to do a NASA voice. With getting to the bottom of the ongoing UFO mystery. There's not really much to comment on, actually, in this article, to be honest. But it just says here, this is from Rachel Crane of CNN, interviewing the head of NASA, Bill Nelson. He says, "Now I'm here at NASA. I've turned to our scientists and said, would you, looking at it from a scientific standpoint, see if you can determine what these objects are so we can have a better idea." Well, of course, the NASA know what they are. There's that famous incident, isn't there, where the spatial discovery, that's Blaha, the pilot, he says, "Houston, this is Discovery, we've got the alien spacecraft under observance." That was picked up by a radio ham. And then they switched this to the classified encrypted frequency. That was 1989, that was, I remember. It came up, actually, on the Panway show last night. But it's the article then says, while it remains to be seen whether or not NASA will be able to succeed in this regard, where the US Navy and other agencies have failed, the fact that it is looking into the subject at all is further evidence that these UFO sightings have been taken very seriously by the powers that be. Ultimately, the answers are out there, waiting to be found. And for once, it seems unlikely the nature and origins of these mysterious objects will turn out to be unremarkable and mundane. Someone or something is operating them. It's about time we found out. You see, this is what I mean by we're heading in a certain direction. This is like a crash course in ufology we're getting. As I explained in the previous video, it's like UFO Disclosure video. It's like they're trying to get us into a certain mindset for a certain purpose. That's what I think. And what that purpose is, I'm not sure. But, it's... The skeptics, as I said, most of them are doubling down, as you saw from that CSI article. And most of them will double down for as long as they possibly can. They will... I think there's some that might be in such denial that even if the White House lawn landing happens, they'll say it's a bouncy castle. They will literally deny reality. Others, though, I think will come over. Sam Harris is not going to be the only one. The problem is, I think, this is something completely new. This new ufology. It's something humanity's never had to deal with before. It's something no one's ever had to deal with except like a minority of people who what they call, what was the word they used? Enthusiasts. The general population is now going to have to come to terms with all this. People like you and me, I assume most of you who are watching this are kind of loonies or tinfoil hatters like me, we are going to have to play a leadership role. because people are going to look to us to guide them because of our experience and because of the fact we've already come to grips with this, and we're going to have to. That's something we're going to have to deal with as well. The skeptics are going to go through, I think, the biggest upheaval of their entire movement. It's basically going to be the end of their movement, because their entire raison d'etre is to disprove these things. And this is going to be, excuse me. There's other things apart from UFOs, of course. I mean, there's ghosts and there's other things, but it's a domino. It's going to domino out into other areas, because once the cultural taboo is evaporated, once the idea that it's just wrong psychologically and socially to deal with these things is no longer the case, and it becomes acceptable culturally and psychologically, at that moment there's going to be similar revelations in other areas. Bigfoot, for example. There's going to be a lot more interest in Bigfoot, I think, and a lot of the evidence that's been rejected will be taken seriously. The same with ghosts and things like that. So this is, to quote Chris Carter, the author, not the creator of X-Files, a book author, this is the fall of the House of Skeptic. It's going to be difficult for these people. And they are going to go. It's going to be traumatic. I don't bear them any ill will. I have friends who are skeptics, and I wish them all the best. And just to let you know, guys, I at least am here if you need me. Not everyone on my side is going to be as magnanimous as I am. Some of them are going to say, "Suck it up, losers." I'm not going to say that. You can always turn to me for guidance if you need it. So. What a world we're going through, eh? What a strange turn of events that is happening right now, to the point where I can't even turn my back on the camera before some new revelation comes around, which I have to make another video about. Who knows? I do wonder, actually, what's going to happen with the G7. I mean, is something going to be said about this at the G7? I don't know. Because Boris, I don't know yet. As I said in the last video, I don't know yet whether Boris has broken out of his chains or not. Whether this is talked about or not will depend on that. As I said about the lockdown ending, it's going to be a test, but we'll see. But the G7 summit's going on now, so I'll be back in front of the camera probably in a couple of hours. Honestly, I'm going away tomorrow just for something which I will be filming, so you'll get a video out of it. And when I get back, which will be Sunday evening, I'll start editing and processing it. So hopefully by Monday there'll be a video of some kind. I can't tell you what it's going to be, but it'll be fun. Just one more thing. Now, I don't normally advertise anyone's products on here, and these products I'm advertising here are not ones that nobody has paid me for. Nobody at all. But these are a series of T-shirts. The only reason I'm only mentioning them here is because I'm going to get one of them. And you see, they all say "Told you so," and you can see here "Told you so" with UFOs on it. There's a long sleeve or short sleeve one. And there's also pajama tops and things as well here. There's a ladies' T-shirt on the bottom left. I told you so. And of course, I've added that there's a picture here of a Bob Lazar T-shirt saying "Told you so." Now, this is actually not part of this selection, but I did manage to find it, so I just added it to the picture. The only reason I'm showing you these is because I'm going to get one of them. I've got to get one of these because I just want everyone to see me wearing it, because we did tell you so. That's basically it, isn't it? You laughed at us. As Nigel Farage said, "You're not laughing now, are you?" Now, I'm speaking at a couple of upcoming conferences, just to let you know. I'm speaking at Awake and Aware at the UFO Academy. That is in the first weekend of July. The second weekend of July, I'm speaking at the Bases Project, Bases at the Barge, with Miles Johnston. Now, the end of the lockdown and when it happens is going to be very dependent. Is going to determine very much how those events go ahead, or if they go ahead at all. So I won't know just exactly yet what's going to happen, but I'll keep you posted with that. In the meantime, thank you, all of you. Appreciate you watching Hapanwo TV. You've surely had enough of me this week. So I will leave you in peace over this weekend. There'll be more coming when I come home. Thank you for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.